Hello, this is our Rats with Team 4545 League analyzing the game between Frontier and Seychess. This is played in the last round of the Team 52 playoffs under 2000 section. Here's the deal. White must win or it's lose the match. If he wins, it's a tied match and they play again one more time. Alright, let's take a look and see what happens. Okay. And Black decides he would just like to go into a Queen's Gambit decline position. White has ways to avoid this if he wants. He can kind of play it Reti style, E3, and then eventually B3. Okay. Black should have no trouble equalizing against that. It's just a question of what other options does White want. And, you know, I can't speak for White because I'm not him. But when you have to play for a win, sometimes you just want to go into something a little different that your opponent may not know, because this just goes into main line, Queen's Gambit declined, and if you're going to play answer D5 to D4, you should know the Queen's Gambit declined, one variation of the other. So psychologically, Black has won the first few moves. Okay, Bishop E7, kind of the modern approach to the Queen's Gambit, and the exchange variation usually comes soon enough. And there was a game, I think, in one of the earlier rounds, round 5 between Big H and Justin Sane. I remember that game. What happened is, here you'll see with G6, it's the idea of G6 is to put the bishop on F5 and chase the queen away. And I was questioning, is that a book strategy, and then not fianchetto the bishop? And I came to the conclusion I wasn't sure. But that was a fascinating game. It ended up winning game of the week for White, because what White was supposed to do is do this queenside advance with the pawns. They call it the minority attack. And Black is supposed to eventually run a queenside pawn or kingside minority attack. And what happened was very curious. Black started advancing his queenside pawns and took the minority attack away from White, and White had to shift his attention over to the king side and conduct operations there. And it was a really fascinating game, and as I said, White won game of the week with it for his originality of having to fight out of an unknown position. And like I say, sometimes every game has a plan, a set plan. These middle games have known plans, and if you don't follow them, you can often lose very easily, because your opponent doesn't have to worry about the normal things that you do and can now focus on other things that he can do. So I was kind of surprised to see this opening come up again, so maybe this is a book line and I just don't know it. But there was a slight difference in the game between Big H and Justin Sane. By one move, I think the Black bishop was still back on E7, or I mean, from E7 was still back on F8. But here's the point, and I know Big H had played Queen B3 here, and what happens here is Frontier plays Bishop D3, and we don't go into that. And White's going to be all set up to do his minority attack. Okay, so anyway, we just move on a little bit. Now I've already seen this whole game, and I'm trying to see what else I can put into this. White really doesn't have much. His only chance here is to conduct that minority attack. One drawback with the way White has played this is that he's traded off his better bishop. Okay, let's look at this for a second. I'll circle the White bishop. Now I'm going to circle how many pawns are on the color of that bishop. Okay, look at that. Out of 7 pawns, 5 of them are on Black squares. Now, I don't even have to circle the other side. Look at the Black bishop. Here it is. I'll circle him. Okay. 6 of the 7 Black pawns are on White squares. So Black definitely has the better bishop. And if anybody has any winning chances, it's black, simply because if there's a bishop endgame, if all the knights and queens and rooks come off, and there's a bishop ending, there's a good chance black can win this. He certainly won't be dropping any pawns, because if the pawns stay there, how's that bishop ever going to capture any of them? Well, the answer is he isn't. Now, just because you have all the pawns on the color of opposite color of your bishop and your opponent's pawns are on the color of your bishop doesn't guarantee a win. Sometimes the position can lock up. But it's safe to say that it's better to have the pawns on the opposite color of your bishop and preserve those ending opportunities. So aside from, let me just get rid of the circles, back it up one move, put it back. Okay, I'm getting tired of looking at those circles. I don't know about you. All right. The next thing that should take place now is, since white has that one minor, very minor weakness in his position, just the structure with the bishops and the color of the pawns, the color of the squares the pawns are on, white has one logical plan, and that's to conduct operations as he should, and that's with a minority attack. And to review the minority attack, as we've done a couple times before, white advances b4. Well, he can't yet because there's a bishop that'll capture it, but the idea is to advance the pawn to b4 and b5. And one of two things usually happens. Black will take on b5, and when he does, or if he does, it leaves the d5 pawn to be an isolated pawn, and it's a potential target and weakness that white can work on. And the other alternative is that black doesn't take, and instead white takes on c6. Okay. Now, if the pawn recaptures, then black has a backward pawn on the open file, and that's what white shoots for. One of those two scenarios. Now, I learned that when I was a teenager. Okay, I wasn't even any good at chess, and I learned it. But okay, now what black's supposed to do is conduct his own minority attack. Now, he's not prepared for it just yet, but you see that pawn on f7 is supposed to run up to f4, and conversely, black achieves to seek the same things that white did. If black can take on e3 and white recaptures with the f pawn, black now has a backward pawn on the open e-file to play against. And if white doesn't, or if white does, let's see, where am I? Yeah, if white does take on f4, then the white d pawn becomes the isolated pawn and becomes a target that black will focus his attention on. So that's the logic of the minority attack, and this is what white needs to do starting right now. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, rook b1, preparing b4. This is fine, perfectly good. Okay, a5, and white says, black says that I'm going to stop you at least as long as I can. And then white plays a3. Now, I'd like to stop just a moment before we go any further. Let's look at the clocks. White has 49 minutes, so he's gained 4 minutes on his clock. He's playing this very fast. He's gained the 45-second increment 13 times, and almost the same with black, but they're both playing extremely quick. Now, this is a must-win game. Must-win for white. So right now, he's got a chance because he's setting his plan in motion. White is ready to play b4. Now, as I pointed out, the black strategy is to push the f-pawn to counter this. The f-pawn goes up to f5 and then to f4. Black is a little ways away from achieving his aim. Okay? Now, the last thing black wants to do is trade bishops, but white does have some compensation in that respect. But we can give up that thing. Sometimes you have to give up an advantage to get another one. And in this case, maybe you're going to have to trade bishops with a timely knight e4. Now you have to prepare for that. But if black doesn't do this, doesn't trade the bishops, it might be a while before he can advance that pawn. And the reason being is that the black knight on f6 is pinned. If it moves, white gets rid of his problem bishop, and this is something I pointed out. And anytime you have a strategy and an asset and things like this, like I say, the black bishop is better. You have to weigh all the other circumstances against each other and make a choice. And it might be that as much as you want that bishop, you can't keep it. So I don't know. It's hard to say. But for the moment, white's ready to pounce. He's ready to do what he has to do, and black is a little ways away. So let's see how black answers. Rook e8. Now he's getting close if his idea is to play bishop f8, freeing the queen so the queen can go somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where yet. But from that position, then the knight is free to move, and we can advance the f-pawn. Okay, so if you're white, what do you do? Well, you're supposed to play b4 right here. But let's see what white does. He plays rook c1. Now, or rook fc1. Now he took 2 minutes on this, so at least he stopped to think. 49 down to 47, add 45 seconds back. He took 2 minutes. But let's think about that move before we play it. b4 directly gets it started now. We can always bring this rook to the f-file later, and who knows, or to the b-file later, or the c-file. We don't know exactly we want it yet. I say the best move right now is to play b4, period. Okay? Got to do it now. But let's see what happens. Okay, knight e4. Now, here black didn't even consider my idea, and that's up for the players to analyze and see should the bishop drop back to f8 or not before you do this. But black's okay with giving up that little minor advantage. Again, black only needs a draw, so black doesn't have to necessarily play for a win here. But sometimes the best way to play for a win is to play for a draw. Now, white should have probably taken, but he didn't. And here I am just totally amazed at what happened. Okay, he spent about 3 minutes and came up with bishop f4, and I just don't understand. What was white worried about? Let's back that bishop up. White needs to play b4 right now, period. Get the minority attack going. Now, it's true that black's getting primed to do his, but you got to do what you got to do, and that's run the minority attack. Without question, time is important, and the quicker you get your plan implemented, the better off you're going to be. So bishop f4 just seems to defy logic. White's going away from what he should do and going into new ground. Okay, so he plays here, and black happily takes. Now white's got... We didn't even have to conduct the minority attack to get that pawn isolated on d4. Black now has a queenside pawn majority. Well, he always does in this opening, but he doesn't have to expose his king by running f7 to f5. So black's doing great. Black's got an advantage. Black can't lose this unless he's careless. And just start improving the position of his pieces. Now here's white having to stop and secure his weak pawns, not even getting going what he's supposed to do. Now he retreats. I don't understand that. Why are you retreating? You need to be pushing b4 before it's too late. Maybe it was too late. I don't know. But black just keeps improving his position. And another retreating move. Where is b4? See, this is your move right here. I'm putting arrows on it. You got to play that. Instead of backing up. But I don't know. But if you have to play for a win, you got to do what the strategy dictates. And if retreating is a strategy that dictates it, then wow, I don't know. I'm not trying to be critical, or cantankerous or anything. But just look, the black pieces are just swarming, and then this weakness just falls prey to a combination, and black's getting the world here for everything. Tempo the queen with a threat on e2, then check. And then here, black can just... You can go into an ending with a rook against two knights and clean it up, but just keep the pressure on. And then, wow, white's just lost, and white resigned. Anyway, I'd like to say more about this, but my 15 minutes is just about up. Congratulations, Say Chess. Great game. You handled it well. and to your team. Thanks for your time, everyone.